I'm like you, Rebecca. I'm still in shock, guys. I'm in shock because I saw a total meltdown right before my eyes, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And I'm pretty sure many of you were shocked as well. And so I want to share tonight a couple of things. Let me get this light over a little bit here off of me. I want to share a couple of things that I think is going to really help shed some light as to what all we saw. We saw like I said, we saw an eruption of emotions, and it wasn't just Chris Rock. You know, Chris Rock is a comedian doing what comedians do, you know, cracking jokes. And somebody said, well, he should have been more sensitive. Bob, you know, okay, we can say what he should have been. We could say that. One of the things that we have learned in the profession, you know, being on television, being around celebrities, is you must always keep it cool. And I know people say, well, you know, he was Jada's husband before he was this, and he was this and that and the other. But what I saw, and maybe some of you may have seen it as well, is a young boy. It was like a little boy came out and had a fit. And I'm going to explain that in more detail, because I went back, and as I was getting ready for this video, I began to look at some videos that Will Smith himself put out. I purchased his book, you know, Will Smith, just Will, I think it's called. I forget what it's called, but I purchased the book. And when I read it, the book revealed a lot of what I saw Sunday night. And I'm going to share that with you today. And I want to help you see some insight. Again, I'm not here to say he was defending his wife and all that stuff that people are saying, because I pose a question in the video. If Will Smith was defending his wife, who was defending Will Smith? Who was protecting Will Smith from a major meltdown? Now, I can tell you for a fact, I love myself some Rebecca Lynn Pope. Those that know me, somebody say, well, Carrie, what if it had been her and people came for her? Guys, people come for my wife all the time. I hear stuff all the time, calling her out her names, you know, this, that, and the other. And one day we was on a video together, and the guy came for her through me, and I went in on him, but I didn't put my hands on him. I straightened him out in such a way to let him know that respect will be given, and the respect is demand. So I think things could have been handled differently. So if you will, let me share a couple of things with you real quick. I want you to pay attention to this. I think it'll help shed some light. So let's go back to how everything began. All right, let's go here quickly.
Uh-oh, Richard. Oh, wow. Wow. Uh-oh, Richard. Oh, wow. Wow. Will Smith.
The feed goes silent, and so does the audience after Will Smith takes a swing at Chris Rock on stage at the Oscars. It all went down after Chris made a crack about Will's wife, Jada Pinkett Smith, and her shaved head.
Jada, I love you. G.I. Jane 2, can't wait to see it. All right? That was a nice one. Okay.
While Will appears to laugh at first, things immediately turn sour as he takes to the stage, slapping Chris straight across the face.
Uh-oh, Richard. Oh, wow. Wow. Will Smith.
The sound on the broad.
Now, guys, let me say this to you real quickly. Every time I see that, it disturbs me, because it's obvious that Chris Rock didn't think he did anything wrong. I took the joke in one manner. Will was laughing at the beginning, and it was only until he looked over at Jada and saw her face that he switched. And I've watched this many times. People say, well, he saw her disappointment, so he went to, save his wife and represent her. Yes, but no. See, I could relate to what Will was going through at that moment, because at that moment, Will heard, that's what I'm talking about. You don't protect me. Will also saw his father and his mother. So many things. If you really go back and watch Will Smith's documentaries, The Best Shape of My Life, and I'm going to play a little bit of that in a minute. He talks about his father. He talks about growing up. Now, I had a great father growing up. And when I say I used to be Will Smith, it's not from the father perspective, but it's from the not feeling good enough perspective, not feeling worthy enough, not feeling good enough, not feeling sexy enough, not feeling whatever it may be. Because if you choose wrongly and you do not, hey, God bless you, Greta. If you choose wrong and you don't have the right person protecting you, or as a king, having that queen build you up, if you go your whole life with low self-esteem, because really what we're seeing is Will Smith with low self-esteem, and that night, the explosion. And it bothered me so, because I began to put the puzzle together of his life. Because for many years, people said, you look like Will Smith. And I'm like, really? And as I followed Will Smith's life, there were so many similarities I began to see when it came to low self-esteem or codependency. How many of you know that Will Smith he's an enabler? And one of the things that he did, and his book talks about it, I'm going to go screen share it and show you in a second, and we're going to read it together. He talks about that his whole life, he felt like the best way for him to kind of be accepted is by rapping, jokes and making people laugh. Basically, what we have is Will Smith, and I apologize for that. I'm having to try to read it, but I'll read it to you, and you can hear what Smith said. So Smith was spoken about what it was like to grow up in an abusive household, saying that the experience made him develop unhealthy defense mechanisms that would negatively impact his personal and professional life. He stated he had to defect. He created basically defense mechanisms because of his household upbringing. Now, because of my low self-esteem, I created a certain life about Carrie. I was a singer. I was an entertainer. I was a comedian. As long as I can sing to you or play for you, you will accept me. I felt, now don't get me wrong. I had plenty of love in my home. My mother and father loved me dearly. They were not abusive, but because of the low self-esteem I had, I felt that only to be accepted was to be good at what I could do. Now, I don't know how you feel about low self-esteem, but that's what it was for me. So when Will went off the other night, I saw myself in him as someone feeling like this defense mechanism. Oh, it was funny. Oh, snap. She's not laughing. I got to protect her. I got to jump in. So Will told us in his book what we saw Sunday night. Watch this. Let's keep going. He says, my father was violent in my house. So a part of the whole creation of Will Smith, the joking, fun, and silly, was to make sure that my father was entertained enough not to hurt my mother or anyone in the house. So when you have this defense mechanism, people do things when they're hiding their hurt. People do things when they're not wanting to, they're trying to suppress what they've gone through. Will goes on to say in his book, however, all the quip in the world was not enough to prevent my father from being violent towards my mother, making Smith feel inadequate as a child. Now, listen, ladies and gentlemen, this video is about low self-esteem. I used to be Will Smith. Will Smith, and he tells us in his book, he tells us in his videos that he struggled with self-esteem. This man is a multi-millionaire genius, rapper, actor, phenomenal guy, but he had issues of the person he had to create to be accepted. How about you? Have you created an entity of yourself to be accepted by others? I want you to think about that. Have you created an entity of yourself that others can accept you? I did. I created my life in a manner to be accepted. I grew up as a people pleaser. I made sure that I grew up in church and I was the eldest in my family. I was responsible as a leader for my siblings in church, young people. I was a young minister. I was a captain in the band. I was a drum captain. I was always in leadership, but I was struggling with self-esteem. And I created this. Hey, what am I good at? Because whatever I'm good at, that's what I'm accepted for. Let's keep on reading. So he said, I created this person, Will Smith. This made him believe that if he hurt someone first, they would not hurt him. So when someone comes at me like that, the little boy is fully in that space, and I will perform and dance and tell jokes. So whenever Will felt up against the wall, he would dance, joke, tell, he couldn't show the fear. So he did whatever it took to be accepted. Now, people, catch this now, people laughing and people having fun was my defense mechanism. Will Smith told us people laughing and people, having a good time was his defense mechanism. So as long as Chris Rock is telling jokes and everybody's laughing, guess what? I'm laughing too. But the moment I look at the person I'm supposed to protect and provide for and love, and we already got our issues going on and our life is in the spotlight. We heard earlier that night, Regina Hall and other makes jokes about, Jade has already approved you to be, to come up here and be searched as a single man, meaning the story of them having an open marriage. So Will was getting picked at. Now, here's the thing. Being married myself, and some of you can relate, when you have conversations at home that are private to the outside world, only you know what ticks off your mate or what has been said by your mate that can make you go, dang, that's what they were talking about. Or shoot, I didn't come through. Prime example, I'll put back the veil for me. Rebecca and I had an issue a while back for me where my silence was loud. We had an issue, and because I didn't take a side, I took a side. In other words, I said, well, it ain't my problem. Y'all deal with it. But the reality is silence is loud. And so I had to understand that my job, yes, is to protect my wife. Now, we have conversations all day long. If I'm right, I'm right. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. We hold each other accountable. We don't just go along to get along, but we check each other when we get out of pocket. Now, here's the problem. What if you're so out of pocket now the world knows your business and people are watching and looking at you? Watch what Will said here, and this is very key. People laughing and people having fun was my defense mechanism. I realized the other side of it was this. If I cut you bad enough, you wouldn't be able to respond. That's dangerous. If I cut you bad enough, you won't be able to respond. So let's go back to Chris Rock. He cut Chris Rock with a slap. Now, I know y'all going to say, oh, he deserved it. We're not going there. You're missing the key. If I hurt you bad enough, you won't respond. What did Chris Rock do when he got slapped? You saw the video. He could not move. When he got slapped across his face, he could not move. Watch this. This attitude had a major effect on Smith's relationships with women. It was a real struggle for him to deal with a woman who disapproved of him. This is in his book, ladies and gentlemen. I was the same way. I was a people pleaser. If you disapproved of me, I would go out of my way to do more. It's called codependency. And when you are a codependent person, you need to be needed so you please people. And my low self-esteem was causing me to please. So I've had multiple divorces. You heard me talk about it, not pleased about it. But the thing that caused it was trying to please when I should have been standing on 2 feet and saying, no, we're not doing that. But because I was low self-esteem and codependent, I didn't have what I needed. But notice I said I used to be. I had to learn how to do the work and get it under control and go to therapy. Because what I saw, and I'm not saying Will is not in therapy, I'm sure he is, but I'm going to tell you what he did say, and his apologies. I have still work to do. His book tells us. He says this attitude had a major effect on Smith's relationship with women. It was a real struggle for him to deal with a woman who disapproved of him. Let me say something to you all. And then I'm going to finish this out real quick. Let me go back to the second scene of your comments. Now, hear me very carefully. And this is super important. Okay? A lot of people don't understand that men get hurt just like you do, ladies. But because he's looked upon as weak when he shows his emotions, he creates this front. If he steps out with another woman that affirms him, you say he's cheating. When he comes to you and asks you to affirm him, you say, man up. So what we saw the other night was a man who had a hard time, dealing with disapproval of his woman. So how you think he felt already knowing this, laughing at a joke, but then looks at his wife who is disapproved? Now, Jada has said many times in videos, I'm proud of my bald head. I love it. I've accepted what I am and who I am. So if you accepted what you are and who you are, then why you get an attitude when someone says something about it? So that's why I'm saying, guys, you got to not go off for one thing, but put the puzzle together. Will struggles with low self-esteem and disappointing the woman that loves him, or excuse me, that he loves. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. When I began to watch all the speculations and go back and watch the entanglement, and then I watched the story about the red table when they had the conversation and Will got drug all across and was crying. I saw a broken man. I could relate to a man who was wanting to just want to be accepted and do his best to please. And then, you know, we don't know the full story, but I'm gonna be honest with you. I would feel some kind of way if that news got out in the open as well. And so when you're a celebrity, yes, your life is for everybody to see, because everybody's going to be, you know, coming in and trying to get your business and all that and the other. But when I began to look at Will, I saw past the slap. I saw past the keep your wife's name out of your blank mouth. He was coming up in a way to prove I got you. He overcorrected himself. When a person is trying to get right, they overcorrect and still find themselves being wrong. Now, I know some people can say, oh my God, I can't believe this. But at the end of the day, I have done it. I have overcorrected, trying to prove that I'm worthy enough, trying to prove I'm protective enough, trying to prove I'm not that same person. When the reality was the only person I had to prove it to was myself. Because it's no matter if somebody already sees you in a certain light, it doesn't matter what you do, they're still not going to accept you. It says, I'm looking at my screen behind me. It says, I think because of my dynamics with my mother as a little boy, my father beat my mother and I couldn't protect her. Listen to this very carefully. This is in Will's book, and I want you guys to comment with me because I can see it now. Female disapproval is unbearable and my body can't handle it. Stop right there. This is in Will's book. Female disapproval is unbearable and my body can't take it. That's absolutely my central wound. And he said in the book, in the last 3 years, I've been seeing it and confronting it more effectively. So let's go to this past Sunday night. We saw it. He couldn't control it. And on the biggest stage of his life, when it should have been his night, he's worked so hard. He put a great movie out. King Richard is a phenomenal movie. They promoted it. They pushed it. They had Beyonce. They had the Williams sisters, and they had all this great stuff in place. And on the night of his great finally arriving, he loses it. Now, I'm not going to get into he's protecting his queen, because there's ways you can protect your queen, but also protect your identity. One of the things that I saw that really troubled me so was a man who, no matter what he did, could not get it right. Having seen videos and reading his books. Matter of fact, I'm going to play your video. Listen to this right here as he talks to his mother. I think this speaks volumes right here.
Uh-oh, Richard.
And the Oscar goes to...
I began to experiment with my parenting by reassessing my relationships with my children in terms of my care and concern for their feelings. I began to be able to perceive emotional injuries of their childhoods. Trey had gotten the most ignorant version of my parenting. Jaden had got Will Dad 2.0, which was a slight upgrade. And even though Willow had had to shave her head, she had stopped me before her point of no return.
Will talks about in that video, and the other I didn't have loaded, where he's actually talking about his mother and he's apologizing about not being there for her. In this particular video, Will talks about how he wasn't a good father to the first son, but then the second son got Will 2.0, which is a little better. And he stated before Willow lost it and kept cutting her hair off, she got his attention. His whole life, from growing up with his mother to his children to his wife, he's always in trying to be accepted, taking on roles and doing things, trying to be accepted. See, I can understand, because when I look back at that video, I thought about my kid, Paisha, Anthony, and Kiera, being a young man looking for love and going through divorce and broken home. So Shay and Tony suffered. Get to Kiera. And I gave Kiera better than I gave the other two. And I did that because I said, I got to get it right. See, I used to be Will Smith, but I had to make a understanding through therapy that I can't change the past. All I can do is draw a line in the sand, and from that line, do better. I'm sure, and he gave a phenomenal speech, and in the speech, it was hard to receive the speech because of how, first of all, I felt his pain, but then what I had just witnessed, and knowing that will overshadow the speech. And we can, like I said, we can all have our points of views. It's okay. I'm not, to argue that. I'm just simply saying I saw a man that was broken, who's seeking help, who's screaming for help, that on the greatest night of his life, winning the most prestigious honor in Hollywood, the Oscar, is going to forever be tainted with what happened. As a person who has struggled with low self-esteem and had to do the work, and the course that I have out now is called Authentically Me. And I'm going to put a link up. You can go to my page. You can get this course because I want you to get it. It helped me to start doing the work on my low self-esteem, my affirmations, my knowing that I'm good enough, I'm smart enough. We all make bad decisions. So instead of making excuses for those decisions, owning it, but doing better. It's hard when people don't accept you. Rejection. Have you ever felt, how many of you can say I felt rejected before, Carrie? I've felt rejection, and that rejection was hard. It was tough. I mean, it took me places, and rejection comes from not being accepted. And then you create what you think is necessary to be accepted, but it's really a false life. Right now, do you believe people accept you for who you are, or do you struggle with people? I want to hear what you have to say. How many of you can say, Carrie, sometimes I struggle with acceptance. Sometimes I don't feel I'm good enough. Sometimes I feel that other people are smarter than me. Sometimes I feel that other people are better than me. And Will's, his whole life struggling, now on the world stage, because the Oscar was seen throughout the world. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter whether he was right or wrong. What matters is, how did he deal with everything when he got to himself? And have to see the video and the struggles we already see he had. It says his whole life he felt like he couldn't protect his mom. So now we're saying he protected his wife, but he overcorrected because he did it in such a way that it left a taint on his greatest night. It tainted his greatest night. And I'm praying for him. I'm praying he does the work, because everybody knows, comedians going to take jabs at you. That's why I have you laugh. And we've all watched it and laugh and cringe at the same time. And I don't know what was in their minds, but I know what was in Will's book. I know what was been in Will's videos, and I saw Will's spirit. He's broken. He's hurting. He was screaming. I can't get it right. No matter what I do, it's never enough. And I'm praying for his soul. I'm praying for that he keeps doing the work. I'm praying that his self-esteem is built up. Because let me say something to you, ladies and gentlemen. Just because you have trophies and awards and you're on the spotlight doesn't mean your self-esteem is. For years, I preached and prophesied and raised dead and done great hero healings and miracles with low self-esteem. And went home and caught up in a ball because one person didn't like what I had to say. It's real talk. And so I just want to encourage you tonight to do the work. I used to be Will Smith, low self-esteem, codependent, but I did what was necessary to build myself up. And I want you to do the same. Okay? All right, guys, listen, I apologize for any technical difficulties, but I just want to share what I could with you. I hope you really take to heart some things I've said tonight. The course is up. Definitely want you to do if you have low self-esteem, get the course Authentically Me. We also have the Work Masterclass, which is even more in depth of building you up. Guys, no more excuses. It's time for us to do the work. I have a therapist, visit him regularly. I constantly do my work because I always want to. And listen, you don't just do the work one time and it's over. No, this is an ongoing thing. And what the problem is, and I'll say this as I close, a lot of people don't want to be honest and transparent. I'm sharing with you my transparency.